The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the Eldorado Canyon trailhead parking lot as Sarah Mitchell carefully checked her backpack one final time. It was October 15th, 1999, and the golden aspens were at their peak, painting the Colorado mountainside in brilliant yellows and oranges against the dramatic red sandstone cliffs. Her best friend since college, Jennifer Walsh, bounced nervously beside her, adjusting the straps of her new Magellan GPS 320 unit, a cutting-edge device that had cost her nearly $300 just months earlier. "Are you sure this thing actually works?" Sarah asked, eyeing the bulky black device skeptically. "I mean, we've hiked these trails a dozen times without it." Jennifer grinned, her excitement infectious despite Sarah's reservations. "Trust me, this is the future of hiking." The guy at REI said it's accurate to within 100 meters, maybe better on a clear day like this. She powered on the device, watching as it searched for satellites in the crisp October sky above Boulder County. "Besides, we're taking the Eldorado Canyon Trail all the way to Walker Ranch today. That's almost 5 miles through some pretty remote terrain." Before we continue with Sarah and Jennifer's story, I want to ask you to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment letting us know where you're watching from. Your support means everything to us, and we love hearing from viewers around the world. The two women had been planning this hike for weeks. Both were experienced hikers in their late 20s, having explored most of Boulder's trail system since moving to Colorado after graduation. Sarah worked as a graphic designer for a small firm downtown, while Jennifer had recently started as a research assistant at the University of Colorado. They typically hiked together every weekend, but this particular trail, connecting Eldorado Canyon State Park to Walker Ranch, was new territory for both of them. As they set off down the trail at 2:30 p.m., Jennifer's GPS unit finally locked onto enough satellites to provide a reading. "Got it," she announced, showing Sarah the small LCD screen displaying their coordinates. 39, 9 degrees north, 105, 3 degrees west. "We're officially on the map." The device felt solid in her hands, its yellow case reassuring against the backdrop of the towering canyon walls. According to Jennifer's research, this trail would take them through some of the most spectacular scenery in the Boulder area: dense pine forests, meadows, and stunning views of the Continental Divide. The first mile passed without incident. They chatted easily about work, relationships, and their plans for the upcoming holidays. The trail wound steadily upward through stands of ponderosa pine and Douglas fir, the familiar scent of pine needles and autumn earth filling their lungs. Jennifer periodically checked her GPS, noting their progress and even creating a few waypoints at scenic overlooks. "This is so cool," she told Sarah. "I can literally see exactly where we are and where we're going. No more getting turned around on those confusing trail junctions." The sky was crystal clear that Friday afternoon, with temperatures in the comfortable 60s, perfect hiking weather for mid-October in Colorado. Other hikers were out enjoying the beautiful conditions. They passed a family with young children heading back toward the trailhead and exchanged pleasantries with an older couple who recommended staying on the main trail as some of the side paths could be confusing. By 4:15 p.m., they had covered about 2.5 miles and were making good time toward Walker Ranch. Jennifer's GPS showed they were right on track, following the established trail through increasingly remote terrain. The familiar sounds of other hikers had faded behind them, replaced by the whisper of wind through pine boughs and the distant call of a hawk circling overhead. It was Sarah who first noticed something seemed off. "Jen, does this look right to you?" she asked, pausing at what appeared to be a trail junction. "I don't remember seeing this on the map at the trailhead." Jennifer consulted her GPS device, frowning as she studied the display. According to the coordinates, they were exactly where they should be, but the terrain around them didn't match her mental picture of the trail. "The GPS says we're still on the right path," she said uncertainly. "Maybe we just haven't been paying close enough attention to the landscape before." They decided to continue forward, trusting the technology over their instincts. This decision would prove to be their first mistake, though they had no way of knowing it at the time. The trail they were following looked legitimate enough, well-worn from foot traffic, marked with the occasional cairn, winding upward through the forest with the same general character as the official Eldorado Canyon Trail. What they didn't realize was that they had inadvertently taken one of the numerous unofficial side trails that crisscross the area. Paths created by decades of hikers, hunters, and wildlife that weren't maintained by Colorado parks and wildlife or shown on official trail maps. In the late 1990s, these ghost trails were common throughout Boulder County's backcountry, remnants of old mining roads, hunting paths, and routes created by adventurous hikers seeking to explore beyond the designated trail system. As the afternoon wore on, the terrain became increasingly challenging. The path grew narrower and steeper, winding through dense stands of lodgepole pine and aspen. Jennifer's GPS continued to function perfectly, dutifully recording their position every few minutes and confirming that they were moving steadily eastward, which should have taken them toward Walker Ranch. But the landscape around them grew increasingly unfamiliar and wild. "Are you getting tired?" Sarah asked around 5:30 p.m., noting that the sun was beginning to sink lower in the western sky. "We've been hiking for 3 hours, and I feel like we should have reached Walker Ranch by now." Jennifer checked her GPS again. According to the device, they had covered nearly 4 miles from their starting point and were making steady progress. "The GPS shows we're almost there," she said, though doubt was beginning to creep into her voice. "Maybe Walker Ranch is just further than we thought." They pressed on for another 40 minutes, following the increasingly faint trail as it wound through a series of small meadows and rocky outcroppings. The aspens had given way to sparse, high-altitude vegetation, and the air was growing noticeably cooler as evening approached. Neither woman had brought heavy jackets, having planned for a day hike in pleasant autumn weather. At 6:15 p.m., with the sun casting long purple shadows across the mountainside, they finally admitted something was seriously wrong. The trail had all but disappeared, leaving them standing in a small clearing surrounded by dense forest with no clear path in any direction. Jennifer's GPS still showed their position confidently: 39, 955 degren, 105, 321 W. But that information was useless without knowing how to get back to civilization. "Okay, this is definitely not right," Sarah said, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. "We need to turn around and retrace our steps back to the main trail." But as they looked around the clearing, a chilling realization set in. They couldn't remember which direction they had come from. The fading light and similar-looking forest had disoriented them completely. Jennifer's GPS showed their current position and the waypoints she had marked earlier, but in the stress of the moment, she struggled to interpret the simple directional arrows that would have guided them back to safety. As darkness began to fall, they made camp in the clearing, using their emergency supplies, energy bars, water, and a lightweight emergency blanket Jennifer had wisely packed. They had enough food and water for the night, but both women knew that their situation was becoming serious. The October nights in the Colorado mountains could drop well below freezing, and they were wearing only light hiking clothes. Jennifer's GPS continued to work throughout the night, its batteries still strong after nearly 8 hours of use. She obsessively checked their position, hoping against hope that the coordinates would somehow reveal an obvious route to safety. But the device could only tell them where they were, not how to get home. The next morning dawned cold and clear, with frost covering their emergency blanket and ice forming on the small stream they had found nearby. Both women were cold, scared, and beginning to feel the effects of their unplanned night outdoors. They had used most of their water, and had only a few energy bars remaining. "We need to make a decision," Sarah said through chattering teeth. "We can either try to find our way back to the trail we were following yesterday, or we can head downhill and hope to find a road or another trail." Jennifer studied her GPS one more time, noting that they were at an elevation of approximately 8,200 feet, significantly higher than they should have been if they had stayed on the Eldorado Canyon Trail. More troubling, the coordinates showed they were well outside the boundaries of both Eldorado Canyon State Park and the Walker Ranch area. They were somewhere in the unmarked wilderness of Boulder County's backcountry. They decided to head downhill, reasoning that all streams in the area eventually led to larger waterways and ultimately to civilization. Jennifer carefully marked their overnight camping spot as a waypoint on her GPS, thinking it might be important information for search and rescue teams if they didn't make it out on their own. For the next 6 hours, they bushwhacked through increasingly difficult terrain, following deer paths and small streams as they worked their way down the mountainside. The forest grew thicker and more tangled as they descended, with fallen logs and dense undergrowth, making progress painfully slow. Jennifer's GPS faithfully recorded their path, creating a detailed track log of their desperate attempt to find help. By mid-afternoon on October 16th, exhaustion and dehydration were taking their toll. They had found water from mountain streams, but had no way to purify it and were reluctant to risk getting sick. Their remaining energy bars were long gone, and both women were showing signs of mild hypothermia from their cold night in the mountains. It was Sarah who first heard the sound, a distant, rhythmic thumping that gradually grew louder. "Do you hear that?" she asked, grabbing Jennifer's arm. "Is that a helicopter?" The search and rescue helicopter appeared over the treetops just minutes later, its distinctive orange and white paint scheme marking it as a Boulder County Sheriff's Office aircraft. The crew had been searching for the two women since Saturday morning, when Sarah's boyfriend had called 911 to report that they hadn't returned from their planned day hike. The rescue was dramatic, but successful. Using emergency radio contact with the helicopter, Sarah and Jennifer were able to signal their position by standing in a small clearing and waving Jennifer's bright yellow jacket. The helicopter crew lowered a rescue basket, and both women were lifted to safety within 20 minutes of first contact. Later, safely back at Boulder Community Hospital, investigators from the Boulder County Sheriff's Office interviewed both women extensively about their experience. Jennifer's GPS unit proved invaluable in reconstructing exactly what had happened and how they had become lost in an area that experienced hikers should have been able to navigate easily. The GPS track log revealed a disturbing truth. The trail they had followed after leaving the official Eldorado Canyon Trail was not random or accidental. Someone had deliberately marked an unofficial path with cairns and subtle trail markers, creating what appeared to be a legitimate hiking route, but actually led deep into unmarked wilderness. The GPS coordinates showed that this false trail led in a series of switchbacks and curves designed to disorient hikers and gradually lead them away from all established trails and roads. Detective Mike Rodriguez of the Boulder County Sheriff's Office became intrigued by the case. "What bothered me was how systematic this false trail was," he later recalled. "This wasn't just hikers getting turned around. Someone had spent considerable time and effort creating a path that looked legitimate, but was actually designed to get people lost." Over the following weeks, Rodriguez worked with Jennifer to analyze the complete GPS track from their hike. The data revealed disturbing patterns. The false trail they had followed included more than 30 carefully placed cairns and what appeared to be official trailblazes on trees. Someone with extensive knowledge of the area's topography had created a sophisticated network of fake trails designed to lead hikers away from safety, But the story didn't end there. Jennifer kept her GPS unit and, despite the traumatic experience, continued hiking in the Boulder area. The device had, after all, provided crucial information that helped with their rescue and the subsequent investigation. She regularly downloaded the track logs from her hikes, creating a growing database of her outdoor activities. 13 years later, in 2012, Jennifer was organizing her digital files when she decided to take a closer look at the GPS data from that terrifying October weekend in 1999. By then, GPS technology had advanced significantly. A new mapping software allowed for much more detailed analysis of track logs and waypoints. What she discovered chilled her to the bone. Using Google Earth and advanced GPS analysis software, Jennifer was able to overlay their 1999 track log onto current satellite imagery of the area. The false trail they had followed was still visible from above, a faint but distinct path winding through the forest. But more disturbing was what the new analysis revealed about the trail's ultimate destination. The GPS coordinates from their furthest point, the clearing where they had spent the night, were just 200 yards from a small abandoned cabin that didn't appear on any official maps. Satellite imagery showed the structure clearly, a weathered log building with what appeared to be a stone chimney, and several outbuildings, hidden deep in the forest and accessible only by the network of false trails. Jennifer immediately contacted Detective Rodriguez, who had since been promoted to sergeant but still remembered the case clearly. Together, they organized a return expedition to the coordinates recorded by Jennifer's GPS 13 years earlier. What they found at the remote cabin was the stuff of nightmares. The building was indeed abandoned, but showed signs of recent use within the past few years. Inside, investigators discovered detailed topographic maps of the entire Boulder County trail system, with the false trail networks marked in red ink. Hand-drawn charts showed the locations of dozens of illegal trail markers and cairns, along with notes about optimal confusion points and maximum isolation coordinates. Most disturbing were the personal items found in the cabin's single room: driver's licenses, hiking permits, and pieces of outdoor gear from at least 12 different individuals. Some of the IDs dated back to the early 1990s, others were much more recent. All belonged to people who had been reported as missing persons in Boulder County over a 15-year period. Detective Rodriguez's investigation revealed that the cabin had belonged to Marcus Henley, a 47-year-old former Forest Service employee who had been dismissed from his job in 1991 for inappropriate conduct toward hikers and campers. Henley had extensive knowledge of Boulder County's backcountry and had used that knowledge to create an elaborate network of false trails designed to lure hikers into remote areas where they could be easily isolated and overpowered. The GPS coordinates from Jennifer's device led investigators to 3 additional sites where Henley had buried the remains of his victims. In total, 11 bodies were recovered from locations scattered throughout the unmarked wilderness areas of Boulder County. Henley himself was found dead in the cabin, apparently having committed suicide sometime in the winter of 2011-2012. Jennifer's GPS unit, a device that had seemed like a fun gadget in 1999, had ultimately provided the key evidence needed to solve one of Colorado's most disturbing serial killing cases. The precise coordinate data recorded during her terrifying weekend had created a digital trail that investigators were able to follow more than a decade later, finally bringing justice to Henley's victims and closure to their families. The case fundamentally changed how law enforcement approaches missing persons reports in wilderness areas. GPS data is now routinely requested from any electronic devices carried by missing hikers, and the Boulder County Sheriff's Office maintains a database of known false trail networks throughout their jurisdiction, Sarah and Jennifer remained close friends throughout the years, bonded by their shared survival experience. Both continued hiking, though they never again ventured into the backcountry without multiple GPS devices, satellite communicators, and detailed plans filed with local authorities. In 2014, Jennifer donated her 1999 vintage Magellan GPS 320 to the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, where it is displayed in their headquarters as a reminder of the crucial role that technology can play in solving even the most complex criminal cases. The device still works perfectly, its yellow case somewhat faded, but its ability to record precise coordinates as reliable as ever. The false trail network that nearly cost Sarah and Jennifer their lives was systematically dismantled by Boulder County Parks and Open Space Crews in 2013. All unauthorized cairns and trail markers were removed, and official signs were posted at key junctions, warning hikers about the dangers of following unofficial trails. Today, the Eldorado Canyon Trail remains one of Boulder's most popular hiking destinations, attracting thousands of visitors each year to experience its stunning red rock scenery and diverse ecosystem. But for those who know the story, the trail serves as a chilling reminder that even in well-traveled wilderness areas, danger can lurk just steps away from the established path. The abandoned cabin, where Marcus Henley had planned and executed his crimes, was demolished in 2015, and the area was allowed to return to its natural state. A small memorial plaque was placed at the site, honoring the victims whose remains were recovered thanks to the precise coordinates recorded by an early GPS device on a beautiful October afternoon in 1999. Jennifer Walsh still hikes regularly in the Boulder area, now using modern GPS technology that can track her location in real time and automatically share her coordinates with family and emergency services. But she never forgets that the bulky, primitive device she carried that day in 1999, a device she had bought mostly out of curiosity, ultimately became the key to solving one of the most disturbing criminal cases in Colorado history. The story of Sarah and Jennifer's harrowing experience serves as both a testament to human resilience and a reminder of the unexpected ways that technology can help bring justice to light, even when that justice comes more than a decade after the fact.